Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Hiba, and here on my channel I cover recent missing person cases. If you're into that type of content, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. I just reached 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much. I am still in disbelief. To celebrate, I will be making a little get to know me video as suggested by one of my OG subscribers, so look forward to that. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into today's video. Today I want to talk again about Kandi Green Gonzalez. Specifically, I want to discuss some new information about Kandi's past that was recently released. I've done several videos discussing Kandi's case, so if you're unfamiliar with her story or need a refresher, I recommend you go ahead and watch those first. But to give you a brief overview, Kandi Green Gonzalez disappeared from Prestonsburg, Kentucky on June 1st, 2021. She was last seen on a yard running into a creek on Abbott Creek Road. Prior to this, Kandi had asked the woman on the property to call her mother for her and stated that her boyfriend, Jeff Blackburn, had kicked her out. During this interaction, Kandi seemed frantic and, in my opinion, very afraid of someone or something. I delved more into this in previous videos. There were also several teenage boys around, and they can be heard in the video making comments, so I will play that now. I also want to mention something I noticed towards the end of this video. As Kandi becomes really panicked and runs away, you can hear a truck approaching, and I know people have pointed this out, but in this version of the video, you can actually hear the woman speaking to Kandi ask who's here. So someone was definitely coming or nearby, and I wonder if this is what prompted Kandi to run.
I'm calling your mom for you. What the hell? Thank you. I need you to get out of this yard or come talk to me. One of the two. Don't play on me. You are on our land. I need to understand why. I need you not to mess with their crops.
Because she's gonna get the creek with.
Look here.
Hey, watch out, there's snakes down there.
What the heck is that?
Well, I don't know why you're trying to reason with her. She's clearly fucking
Have we
crazy.
called the police? Actually.
So like I said, the reason I'm making this video is because I want to discuss some new information that's come to light about Kandi's past. Earlier this week, a record with recent charges and a mugshot of Kandi were released. I'm going to put this up on the screen so you can see it as I talk about it. They are a bit blurry, but I will explain why in a minute. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that this is a picture of printed out records, and you can see that there's a steering wheel in the background. There is a reason for this. According to Kandi's family, and from my own research, these records aren't accessible to the public, at least not easily, and that's because Floyd County has yet to update their record system. This means that someone would have had to have access to the records, or that they would have had to go into the sheriff's office to obtain the records somehow. I'd also like to point out that these records were first released after a member of Jeff's family threatened to release information about Kandi's past, and I think that that's very telling. The second thing I'd like to discuss is that these records have been interpreted and used to push the narrative that Kandi is intentionally hiding out from the law, or that the records somehow excuse the way her case has been treated by law enforcement and others. Anything is possible. So is it possible that Kandi's intentionally not being found? Maybe. But is it likely? Definitely not, in my opinion. I believe this for many reasons, including the fact that her trail led back to her home, the nature of her and Jeff's relationship, and other reasons that I discuss in my other videos. But aside from questioning how these records were obtained and released, I want to discuss Kandi's charges from the day in question, which is May 8th, 2021. Like I said, a lot of people have been using this record to suggest that Kandi's disappearance is because she's running from the law. So the first charge here has to do with speeding. A speeding ticket is certainly nothing to run from, so I'm not even going to delve deeper into that. The next charge is for third-degree criminal trespassing, and I want to emphasize that it was for third degree, not first degree or second degree. A third-degree criminal trespassing charge isn't a felony, neither is second degree or first degree. They're all considered misdemeanor violations. According to the Lexington defense, third-degree criminal violations typically result in fines if convicted, and sometimes they don't even result in that. So once again, that's really nothing to run from. I'm not sure whether some people are confused or whether it's deliberate, but some people have suggested that Kandi was stealing from a shed or something along those lines, but she wasn't. Like I said, she wasn't even charged with second-degree trespassing, which means that a sign or a fence wasn't posted to warn against trespassing in the area where she was. The final charge we see is for public intoxication under the influence of a controlled substance, which again is a misdemeanor. My point here is that none of these charges, even considered together, would lead someone to run from the law, as some are suggesting. We also see that Kandi served 3 days in jail at the time of this arrest. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if she were convicted if she received time served and a fine. On top of all of this, all of these charges were pending, so it's possible they could have been dropped or lowered, and charges oftentimes are, especially speeding charges. The next thing I'd like to point out is the picture of Kandi. There's been a lot of discussion about how different she looks in the mugshot and how her hair was pink and so on. So there isn't any confusion, I'm going to insert the last picture we have of Kandi here. This was taken 2 days prior to her disappearance at a family gathering. As you can see, her hair was blonde. It seems like she had lost some weight, but she seemed to be doing better, and she was making plans with her family and was excited for summer. Finally, I'd like to highlight that the speeding charge wasn't in Floyd County despite Prestonsburg being listed as a city. Again, this leads me to question how this record was obtained. Next to the speeding charge, we see that it says Girard, as in Girard County, and that there's a case number assigned to it, unlike her other charges. I believe that someone could have manually searched the database and potentially added it to her Floyd County record. As you can see, there is an edit button on the left, and maybe it was done this way. However, I'm not sure how this system works. I wonder if there's anyone out there who wanted to publicize Kandi's skeletons who might have an in with law enforcement. But aside from these questions, I'd like to provide some details about what actually happened the night when Kandi was arrested. According to her family, this took place right next door to where Jeff and Kandi live. After an argument between the two, Kandi ran outside to hide from Jeff when things became heated. These neighbors knew Jeff, not just because he was their neighbor, but because he'd actually stolen off their property before. So when they saw Kandi, they assumed that she was trying to do the same thing, and they called the police. This is when police came out and arrested her. Like I said, Kandi wasn't even convicted of these charges, and had the circumstances been explained, they easily could have been dropped. There seems to be a reoccurring theme of Kandi running or hiding from Jeff. A lot of people might question why she would stay with someone that she was so fearful of. I'd like to share with you a statistic that really shocked me when I first learned it, and it's that on average, it takes women 7 attempts to leave a toxic, unhealthy relationship. This is partly because their partner has done such a good job of isolating them from their family and friends that they're so scared to leave and they don't know what to do after. I'll provide more information on that in the description below, but it's a very troubling phenomenon. No one denies that Kandi may have been struggling with substance abuse. Since the beginning of this case, many people speculated that Kandi was under the influence of some sort of substance. For example, when the video was released, many people indicated that substance use could explain Kandi's unusual behavior. While that's entirely possible, it doesn't explain what happened next. It's been over a month and a half now since Kandi's been missing. She hasn't been found despite ongoing search efforts and the various methods utilized. God forbid that Kandi ended up in the woods or in that creek, but many believe that she would have been found by now if she did. I think it's important that we keep in mind what's happened since her disappearance. Who would have released her inaccessible records, and why? What motive would they have to do so? Could it potentially be someone who wanted to get the attention off themselves? This is such a troubling case, and it's obvious that something isn't right. However, Kandi deserves to come home, and her family deserves answers. If you have any information, the numbers for you to contact will be down in the description below, along with my email if you'd like to contact me. Thank you for keeping up with Kandi's case, and please keep sharing her story until we bring her home to our family. I'll see you guys in my next one.